Welcome back to another episode of Success in Mind. Success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about how you feel along the way. And today we're going to answer the big question: how do you measure your happiness? Because here's the truth: for many of us, chasing goals, building businesses, or transforming lives, happiness can feel like an ever-moving target. And it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I hit 6 figures or 7 figures. I'll be happy when my next launch goes well. I'll be happy when I lose the weight. I'll be happy when they finally understand me. But what if happiness isn't something that you chase? What if happiness is something that you create? So let's talk about it. We measure so many things in our lives: money, time, sales, podcast downloads. But we rarely stop to ask, how happy am I really? And I get it, happiness feels intangible. It's not always logical. But if your ultimate goal is to feel good about your life and the direction that you're heading, should there be a way of knowing how you're doing? Is happiness something that we should be measuring and tracking? Well, we know that what you measure, you can improve. Some people say that measuring happiness gives you agency. You're not just reacting to life, that you're actively shaping your life. Measuring happiness maybe helps you to notice what's working and what's not working before you burn out, before you quit, or before you self-sabotage. Happiness isn't a fluffy bonus, it is a core metric of a well-lived life. But what is happiness anyway? So let's define it. Because happiness is often misunderstood. There's momentary happiness, the joy of a great cup of coffee or an unexpected compliment. And then there's sustainable happiness, the deep, internal satisfaction of knowing that you are aligned with your values, your purpose, and your truth. Psychologists often use 3 pillars: pleasure. How often do you feel joy, gratitude, ease, engagement? How absorbed are you in what you're doing? Do you lose track of time in a good way? And 3, meaning. Do you feel like your life has purpose? Are you connected to something that's bigger than you? So think of it as like a triangle. You need all 3 for long-term fulfillment. But what's the difference between happiness and fulfillment? So let's zoom in for a second. Happiness and fulfillment are not the same thing. And if you've been chasing one thinking it would give you the other, well, that might be where the disconnect is. So here's how I like to break it down. This is how I think of it. Happiness is a feeling. It's emotional, in the moment, and often based on external circumstances. So think of a fun night out, a compliment from a stranger, a goal achieved. It's that this feels good, but it's fleeting. It's momentary. You might feel happy right now in this moment and frustrated 5 minutes from now. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is a state of being. Fulfillment is about meaning, purpose, alignment, even when things are hard. You might not feel happy running a marathon or working on your book at 2 a.m., but you might feel deeply fulfilled by the process because it's aligned with your values and your bigger overall purpose. So, happiness is how good you feel right now. Fulfillment is how meaningful is your life overall. And here's the real magic. When you pursue fulfillment first, happiness tends to follow, not as a quick hit, but as a deeper, more sustainable sense of peace. But back to my original question, can you measure happiness? And should we be measuring happiness? Can we track it? Well, here are some tools that people have found useful. So, one is a daily check in. Ask yourself at the end of each day, what brought me joy today? What drained me? On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy did I feel? 2, the happiness jar. And this one comes from Elizabeth Gilbert, so shout out to her. At least that's where I heard about it from. Write one good thing that happened each day on a slip of paper and put it into a jar. Watch the jar fill up. It's like visible proof that your life is working the way you want it. 3, you can journal. What does happiness mean for me right now? What am I tolerating that steals my peace? Where in my life do I feel more alive? 4, you can use apps and trackers. If you're into data, and I am a self proclaimed data nerd, I love having trackable data. You can try something like Mood Notes, Dailyo, or even the health app on your iPhone. And they help you to see patterns over time. I also use, and I've talked about this app before, I use Aura. And spoiler alert, complete like self promotion here. All of my hypnosis recordings are available on the Aura app, and I host a community on there called the Future Shapers. So I tend to do a lot of work on Aura. Aura also has a way of tracking your mood and knowing if your mood is improving over time or not. So that's another great way to measure your happiness. There's also the 5 by 5 method, and each week you list 5 things that made you feel happy and 5 things that didn't. And then ask yourself, what can I change? Now, I'm going to say something that's going to sound very contradictory here. And this is why I'm asking the question, should we be measuring our happiness? So a couple years ago, I was going through a rough patch. My husband, who has PTSD, was going through a really challenging time. And I had realized how deeply it was affecting me. If you want to hear more about that, I did a whole TEDx talk earlier this year on it. It's available on YouTube. I will link it in the show notes for you. And during that time, I worked with a therapist who was an amazingly skilled therapist in working with trauma, specifically PTSD with first responders and their families and spouses. So working with him was life-changing. He was absolutely an incredible therapist. And while I was working with him, I started keeping a journal. Now, this was not something that he suggested I do. This is something I did on my own. I kept a journal, and this journal was a mindset journal that someone had gifted to me years ago. And I just had opened it finally for the first time, thinking it would help improve my mindset. And there was a happiness score on it for each day. And it would rate it out of 5. And every day at the end of my day, I would fill in this journal, and I could never give myself more than a 3. I was consistently a 2 or a 3. And it started to make me feel worse because I started thinking, well, why aren't I happier? But as I would reflect on my day, I would think, well, yeah, I had some happy moments today, but I also had some not happy moments and I had some stressful moments. I had a challenging client that day, or maybe I didn't accomplish something I wanted to. Maybe I did something I didn't feel good about, like ate something that wasn't in alignment with my health goals, or something was off track that day. And so I'd give myself a 2 or a 3. And the next day was the same and the same and the same. And this started to actually make me feel worse. And so finally I brought it to my therapist and I said, I've been keeping this journal and every day I rate myself out of 5 on how happy I feel. And I can never give myself more than a 2 or a 3. And that's starting to concern me. And it's actually making me feel worse. I'm starting to feel bad about it. Why aren't I happier? And when I would look at the scope of my life, I have a beautiful home. I have 2 amazing dogs who I love. I have a great husband. Even when he was going through a challenging, difficult time, he was still there for me. He was still a great partner, a great husband. I do work that I love to do. So why couldn't I be happier? And so I found for me that tracking my happiness daily was like putting it under a microscope. And the more I fixated on it, the less happy I felt. And when I brought this to my therapist, he had the simplest solution of all. He said, Terry, stop tracking it. That was it. Stop tracking it. So the reason I'm sharing this with you, after sharing all these ways that you can track your happiness, is because if you're like me and you start to fixate on it and it starts to feel like it's not enough, then maybe tracking it isn't for you. But I want to give you options here because I know some people find that tracking their happiness, whether it's with the happiness jar or journaling or the 5x5 method, however they do it, some people find that it really helps them improve their happiness. For me, I think my analytical brain went a little bit haywire on it and started overanalyzing because it's not rational that we'll be happy every moment of the day. Like, I'm not going to be happy doing my bookkeeping because I don't love doing it. And so, if I'm looking at the scope of my day and all the different things that I do and all the different emotions I feel, I don't think I'd ever be more than a 2 or 3 of happiness. But I think if you're the kind of person who can just look at the overall and say, yeah, overall, I'm happy with how I spent my day, then tracking might be for you. For me, it made me fixate on it far too much, and it actually had a counter effect on me. So that's why I asked the question, should we measure our happiness? And I think this is based on each individual. If for you, if it helps you to see where you can make changes and improvements in your life, absolutely. But if it makes you feel like you're not happy enough, or you start to feel really bad about it, then don't. Now let's talk about what gets in the way of happiness. The happiness blockers, so to speak. These are things that distort your ability to even recognize happiness. Things like comparing yourself to others' highlight reels. Social media is full of highlight reels. What you see online is not reality, no matter how vulnerable a person says they're being or how open they say they are on social media. We're still seeing the highlight reel. And that's an okay thing. To be honest, I don't want to see everyone's dirty laundry on social media. We go on social media because we want entertainment. That is the truth of it. We want entertainment, we want education, we want connection with other people, but we don't want to hear about everyone's baggage all the time. So it's okay, in my opinion, it is okay that we're looking at people's highlight reels on social media. However, don't compare your real life to someone else's highlight reel. You will be disappointed every time. And you never know what's really going on behind the scenes in someone else's life, no matter how good it looks on social media. In fact, I saw a post just the other day, and I can't remember who posted it or where I saw it. Forgive me for that if you are the creator of this post. But if you know what post I'm talking about, if you come across it, by all means, send it my way. But there was a post of a guy saying that, having 50,000 in the bank account and a paid off $5,000 car, and people will think that you're broke. But if you have $120,000 in debt that you're paying off and a very expensive car that you're making payments on, people will think that you're rich. We don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. So don't assume that because someone looks more successful online that they are. Don't assume that because they look like they have this happy marriage and family that they're really that happy. You never know. Another thing that can distort our ability to recognize happiness is deferring happiness until you feel worthy of it. Happiness does not need to be deferred. In fact, you can feel happy right now in this moment. A simple way to do it is by thinking of things that you're grateful for. What are you grateful for? Everyone. And I don't care how bad of a state you are in right now or how low you are feeling, you have something to be grateful for in this moment, even if it's as simple as I am grateful that my lungs are breathing for me. I am grateful for my heart beating. I'm grateful that the sun is still in the sky. Everyone has something to be grateful for right now. That's one way to put yourself into a more positive state, possibly even a happy state. You can also, and this is coming from NLP, you can simply put yourself into a state of happiness right now just by recalling a time when you felt happy. In fact, let's do this together right now. If it is safe to do so, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, do it with eyes open. But I want you to think of a time right now when you were totally happy. A specific time when you were totally happy. And as you think of that time, go right back to that time now, down into your body, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel those feelings of happiness right now. That's right. So you can feel happy any moment by recalling a time that you felt happy. The third happiness blocker is associating success only with struggle and hustle. And I see this so often with my clients where they feel like they have to really effort, they have to struggle, they have to hustle continuously in order to have success. And they won't feel happy until they have success, but they won't allow themselves to even appreciate the success they already have because they feel like they have to struggle and fight for it. So it becomes this endless loop and it doesn't lead to happiness or reward. And the fourth happiness blocker is feeling too busy to notice what's working. I think it can be so easy to get into a mindset of feeling like nothing's working when you're not where you want to be. So take some time every day to look at what you have accomplished, what you have done, what is working in your life and in your business. Often clients will come to me frustrated and they'll say, Teri, nothing is working. Nothing is working. I just want to give up right now. I'm tired of working so hard and I'm not seeing the results of my effort. Okay, but what is working? Did you get a new client last week? Is your social media presence growing? Is your podcast getting more downloads than it was getting a year ago? What is working? And now here's a really radical thought for you. You don't have to earn happiness at all. You just have to notice it. Listen, our emotions are fleeting. In fact, emotions have about a 60 to a 90-second shelf life, and then we're on to something else. Moment to moment, we are changing, and our emotions are simply information telling us how we're doing in that moment, how we're responding to our environment. You just have to notice things around you that are making you happy. I have a beautiful bouquet of flowers behind me. It makes me happy. Doing this podcast, recording this right now, that makes me happy. The fact that I can do this in the middle of a Monday afternoon, that makes me happy. So you just have to notice the happiness that's already around you. And now let's look at the tie-in, the connection between happiness and your performance and growth. People who are happier are more productive. They have stronger relationships. They make better decisions. And when times are tough, they're more resilient. So this isn't about slapping on a fake smile and pretending that things are good when they're not. It's about creating an internal environment where your best ideas, your best actions, and your best self can thrive. Success isn't the path to happiness. Happiness is the fuel for success. So how do you know if you are happy? Well, if you've never asked yourself before, start today. Choose one small thing to tell you if you're happy. Now, if rating it out of 10 or out of 5 or however, if that doesn't work for you because that didn't work for me, maybe choose another way to track it. What works for me now is looking at the big picture overall. Overall, am I happy with how I spent the day? Overall, am I happy with what I do for my business? Overall, am I happy in my relationship? I mean, if I chunk down, I'm going to find things that aren't happiness. Even within my relationship, and I love my husband, I think we have an A+ relationship. But of course, there are moments within it that neither one of us is going to be happy. Probably when he comes home from work and I have left dishes all over the counter. Like that's probably not a moment of happiness for him. Or for me, when I wake up in the middle of the night and he's snoring, not really a moment of happiness for me. Overall, though, if I look at the big picture of our relationship, yeah, I'm happy. So How do you know if you're happy? What are the markers that tell you if you're happy? So take some time to check in with yourself. Maybe you do it daily, maybe it's weekly. And then celebrate your progress, even if it's just 1% better, because that's what real growth looks like. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Success in Mind. If this episode got you thinking, share it with a friend, leave a review, or tag me on Instagram at the Teri Holland with your biggest takeaway. And if you're ready to create a life that actually feels good and not just looks good on Instagram, head to teriholland.ca to find out how we can work together. Until next time, keep your success in mind and your happiness in heart. Thank you, my friends, for being here today, and I look forward to being back with you again next week. Bye for now.